and our commissioner, he has, you may know a little bit about his background. He worked very closely with local assistance program in particular in the Hampton Roads district, and did project management oversight, hands-on. So he knows project development and project delivery, and the local assistance world in a way that I don't know that any of our other commissioners before or after will have that same kind of hands-on knowledge. But he takes that very seriously, and one of the things he is doing here in this all throughout late spring and through the summer is going around and meeting with each of the district engineers and our staff to really look in detail at how the projects are going in terms of its delivery. Where they're looking at he's looking at projects that have been in PE for 3 or more years and asking the question, why? What's going on with our processes or with those issues? And certainly Anthony and Tommy DeJulian and myself and others, that are on our team have really been looking at our projects in that same light. And we've picked up on some things, so one of the things first and foremost that I think we've recognized is that many of the projects that we have that have been around for a long time are oftentimes projects where we did not have right out of the gate a very clear and committed scope, schedule, and budget. Many times it's by the very nature of some of our programs, I think people are looking to try to obtain funding, and so you may get the first phase or the first piece or things of that nature. And, then that project or that UPC may be around a while you're trying to assemble funds to move things forward. I will just say that one of the pieces that we're being asked to do is to look very carefully at each of our projects, and really be intentful about making sure we have a path forward for every project. The old adage, if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. That's sort of the piece that we see on some, that we also are trying to look to identify where in the processes that we work with, where is it that the process is more difficult or complicated than is necessary? And we've looked at everything from the establishment of our agreements to, right-of-way coordination issues, utility coordination issues. But I'll tell you, in all of those things, when we look at the efficiency of the execution, it really doesn't matter if the sails on the ship aren't at full mast if you don't know where you're going, right? If you don't have a clear scope, schedule, budget. So I would just encourage you, even in those projects where you want to try to get some money, you've got a need or a desire, just be very careful about, going after a project when you don't have a clear understanding of the scope, the schedule, and the budget, because that's going to become more and more of an area of emphasis that we're going to be, held accountable to make sure that each project that is birthed or that is put into motion does at least have, clarity on what's trying to be achieved, and that there has at least been enough work done to know that it is a fundable, executable scope, schedule, and budget. So I ask you to be, mindful of that and cautious of that. Also, as we go through today and as we work, our meeting with the commissioner is later this month. I think at the last week of the month. I forget now exactly the date, but it's the Tuesday of the last of this month that we will meet with him. And we'll be going over and talking about challenges where things are a little rough or a little bumpy in our process, and how can we streamline some of those. And Tommy DeJulian is currently chairing his counterparts. So we have 9 of the people that serve in Tommy's role over our preliminary engineering and project development world. And Tommy is the chair of that working group, and he's been playing a very point role in looking at some of these execution issues and things that can be done to make them more efficient. So I ask that, whether it be today through comments or later on, give me a call, give Tommy a call, give Anthony Ford a call. Let us know your thoughts. If there are things in our execution that aren't smooth and we think that we could gain, raindrops are small, but they add up to be big buckets of water over time. So if we can identify things that are holding us back, that are slowing us down, then we certainly want to know about that. We want to make it as easy on you and as easy on us, to get the projects up and moving and delivered. So I say all that from the standpoint that that's a big push. Part of what today is all about is talking about our processes and making sure that each of you have a clear picture of how that works, ask questions, engage, And then we always look for opportunities to make improvements in our processes and our overall delivery. So I want to thank you for the partnership that you provide with us and the great work you do to serve the communities that we are all a part of. I welcome you to today's virtual activity, and I really certainly wish that we were together, but I look forward to us being together later this fall as we host the statewide gathering of all of the local assistance participants around the state. So as I welcome you, I also want to pause. Dr. Smoot, I know that will be a part of recognizing our Locality of the Year winner here a little later, but I see, was able to join us. Dr. Smoot, any welcoming comments you want to make now? I see the hand. He's going to hold his comments maybe for later. So anyway, welcome, Dr. Smoot, and welcome to all the rest of you. Look forward to this great engagement. Thanks so much. Anthony, I'll hand it back to you.
All right, thanks, Ken. I appreciate that. Appreciate the remarks and appreciate the support you give to this event, and look forward to today's results, what comes out of it. I failed to introduce myself. I do this every time I ever speak, but Ken's said my name a few times. Folks that don't know, I'm Anthony Ford. I'm the Planning and Investment Manager here in the district. If you're looking at the camera view of the room we have now, we have an esteemed group of presenters here with us today, and throughout the morning you're going to hear from each of these folks and the various subject matters that they're experts on. And so you see it on the screen right now, you're seeing the agenda of topics we're going to cover. It looks like a ton of topics. It is, but a lot of these are very brief, and we're going to cover these pretty quickly. And obviously, anytime you guys want to follow up afterwards to ask questions, feel free to do so. I will also note that we are recording this event. You perhaps saw that pop up on your screen whenever a few moments ago. We will make this available here in the coming days for perhaps staff that you have that couldn't participate, or perhaps you just want to go back and get a refresher here in a few weeks on any things that we cover today. So again, I'm not going to read through all the agenda items right there. You see them on the screen. I will point real quick though to one you see in a little bit different color there, the locality perspective. We're excited this year to hear from Town of Benton with some kind of real life experiences they've had. I think it's always good to hear from localities. I know the localities appreciate hearing perspectives from their cohort, if you will, and fellow local government staff. So we're excited about that opportunity to hear from them. So with that, I am going to go on to the next slide after we get our fill of Spaceballs activity. So buckle up, hang on. We're going to be about 2 hours or less. You perhaps are using the entire seat this morning. I'd encourage you to get on the front edge of your seat. You're going to be on the edge of your seat all for the next hour and a half or so. So with that, we're going to transition over to the smart scale topic, and we have our planning manager, Michael Gray, is going to share some thoughts on that.
Good morning, everyone. Like Anthony, I'm sorry we're not able to meet in person this time, but I think next year we may. So we'll talk to you very briefly about smart scale. As most of you already know, since we're getting fairly close to the August 1st application submission. I think y'all have seen this probably quite a few times, but this is kind of that, 2-year cycle of smart scale, but, we also have other programs we're dealing with as well. But right now, us in planning, we're focusing on smart scale. So just want to throw this back out there in front of you, kind of where we are at the beginning of June. August 1st is not that far away. As you can see at the bottom of the page, we have 29 days until our Gate 3 deadline on July 15th. And then 42, these are working days, by the way, 42 days until August 1st application deadline. Wanted to kind of bring up again the readiness gates that are new this year. And I think most of you we've talked to you about them, but kind of want to bring them back up there since they are new, and they're not only new to y'all, but they're new to us as well. The Gate 1 process was something that the applicant had to do as part of the pre-app stage. Gate 2 was something we did here at VDOT back in April. And then the Gate 3 is what's coming up, kind of critical time for July 15th. And that's going to be when, a lot of documents are going to be due at that point. And if they're not submitted at that point, the application will not be allowed to go forward. So it's important. I know we're working hard on all the projects we're working on to get everything ready by that July 15th date. I hope y'all are as well. Did want to point out how many applications we have in our district. Across the state, the applications have gone down just a little bit. For us, they've gone down a little bit, but not a whole lot. We have 40 total applications this round. As you can see, the breakdown of which ones are new submittals, we have 26. Which ones are resubmittals with some type of scope change to them. We have 5 of those, and then brand new submittals looks like we have 10. So you can see the breakdown now of who's handling what with our VDOT consultants, our OIP pipeline project, and the ones that y'all are actually developing on your own. Just wanted to throw this back out there. I think most of you know it, but between for planning in particular, the kind of the lead for each locality, you can see Carroll is the Carroll Moneymaker is the ones in kind of that yellowy gold color, and then Will Crawford's the one in blue. Hopefully you're not finding out this for the first time right now, since we're very far into this process, but I just want to throw that back out there in front of folks. And kind of to wrap up, just hit those important dates again. July 15th is Gate 3 deadline. We're going to be looking to provide the information that's coming from VDOT and our consultants to the applicants sometime in that mid-July period. And then the final application is due on August 1st. So if you have any questions or concerns that are going on with y'all's projects, do not hesitate to reach out to Carol or Will or myself on that. And we'll try to, work with you to make sure we get all these important dates addressed as we approach the deadline. Thanks, and want to move to back down to Jay.
Thanks, Michael.
Question.
Yeah,
I think we talked about maybe holding questions after we'll do a couple sessions here, a couple topics, and then we'll take some questions.
Okay.
I failed to mention, unfortunately, with our team set up and some of the restrictions we have in the IT world, you guys do not have the ability to use the chat function. So if you have questions, we're gonna have the ability to unmute anybody who wants to ask questions here in a few minutes. So please just jot down your questions, and we'll have opportunity here every few minutes to ask questions. Yeah, I'm not sure if you guys can use the hand raise function. Again, there's a lot of limitations, functionality with our systems, but perhaps you can use the hand raise function. But if not, I'll open up an opportunity to you guys ask questions here in a moment. Okay.
I'm doing the 2-year funding cycle. We've updated it, so this is what it looks like now. I'm sure this is what it looks like to many folks when we kind of hit this joke every time up, but it is a non-stop roller coaster of 2-year cycle planning. And I know we covered a lot of this at our recent project pipeline meetings, but everyone can't participate in those, so we're going to run through this briefly. But this is where we are right now in the 2-year funding planning cycle. You can see what's on the horizon. Michael did a great job of covering the imminent smart scale deadlines that are coming up, but we also have to keep in mind that that's not the only game in town. So the other programs that we have are coming up on the horizon. What you see here is in September and October, HSIP applications. It's time to start thinking about getting those resolutions of support. The portal's going to open again in October. The local submissions will be open again this fall. I did get confirmation of that this morning. They are anticipating and having new local applications. So if you have projects that maybe didn't get funded through some of our other programs, that's the next one on the horizon. So be thinking about that. The 6-year program is going to be adopted this month. That's going to the board. I think it's June 21st. That's when the CTB will be considering the SIP adoption. SGR is also right on the horizon. The smart scale, this SGR portal for paving, those of you that have primary extensions that you can apply for, as well as any new bridge projects that come up. We don't know what those lists are going to be just yet, but it's never too early to start thinking about those processes, and they are due in the end of December. The spring public hearings, those, I know we literally just had one, but if you start working through what's on the horizon, what you need to start thinking about, that's when that's going to come up again. So those of you in our counties that have secondary road programs that you just adopted and are probably still adopting, that this spring will be on you before you know it. And then the revenue sharing TA, the reason that's down there at the bottom is even though we, again, just submitted cycles and are just finding out what is for sure going to get funded and adopted in the 6-year program here in June, the portal for those will open in May. So we are a year away, less than a year away now for pre-apps for TA and rev share opening up again. So anything you didn't get funded this time, be on the lookout for that program. And one of the reasons we wanted to bring that up, We did have a significantly higher amount of funds this time than we thought we were going to have. No guarantee that that will be the case next year, but we wanted to make sure folks knew that and that you're not holding back. If you've got potential projects, think hard about applying for those. And now's the time to start thinking about budgeting in your next budget cycle to be able to match those applications that you might apply for. Segueing from that into what doesn't need a match is the Ready, Set, Go program. And you can see here, some of us struggle getting out of the starting gate on projects. And what we'd like to do is help in that way. We have the Ready, Set, Go program, some changes there that I did just literally tell some of you guys about at our project pipeline meetings. I have further updates on that. That has actually changed since what I was telling you just weeks ago. Application process is open on a year-round basis now, and where I had originally said that those would only be funded on a once-a-year cycle, they are going to consider those applications as they come in and fund them as they come in and start working on them as they come in, if it's selected for funding. Eligibility, that will be open to all localities with a population of 50,000 or less. And that does include localities in the MPO areas. But if you are over 50,000, this program is still not available to you at this time. I think they want to do one more round of these, see how much they can open the door. And, if there's a high demand for it this time around, that will probably be the new guidelines. And if not, then perhaps they'll increase that to even more localities next time. But it is anyone with 50,000 or less population. There is zero local commitment for this upfront work. There's no match for the Ready, Set, Go program. And just as a reminder, it is not a turnkey application ready deliverable. It's not something that you're going to be able to just upload into the Smart Portal and say, here's my TA application. There's going to be additional work that's going to need to be done after that. But it is a great start, again, so that you don't take off like this young lady has and we get running like the rest of them right out of the gate. That's the update on those. We'll pause here. I don't know if we have any hands up or if we have any questions.
Yeah, so again, I see a hand. Well, Dana, go ahead.
Hey, thank you all for doing this. I thought I had understood that there wouldn't be new HSIP applications this year and that the ones that weren't funded last year would be prioritized.
Yeah, that's a good question, Ladina. And anything that is VDOT projects, so counties or on the systems that we maintain, those have been submitted. This is only for the local. So any of our urban localities or localities that maintain their own roads would be eligible this time around. There is a pot of funding for that. So you're right. And there is opportunities again this fall for some localities.
Okay, thank you.
Great question. And I know there's a lot of counties on the call right now and also cities and towns. Great. I'm glad you asked that question because there is a distinction. There's kind of a fork in the road, if you will, with the ACIP program. You have the ones that VDOT maintains. And Ladina, you're right on those. We're kind of carrying forth the list from last year. That's still a prioritized list. We're going to try to fund as many of those as we can. But for cities and towns that maintain their own streets, they will open those back up to applications this year. So there is a difference. So I'm glad you asked. Anybody else have any hands up or want to unmute and ask a question before just so far, just on Smart Scale Round 6 or funding cycle updates? All right, well, hearing none, we're going to move on to the next topic, and I believe is construction QA/QC for Mr. Andrew Kales. Andrew, take it off.
Hey, good morning, everybody. I think we touched on this a few years ago at the LAP Day, but I wanted to come back to it. There's been a bit of confusion on what everyone's role is in quality assurance and quality control. So as Anthony mentioned, we're going to hit this briefly. And let's take a look. So you see quality management, quality assurance, quality control, they're all function. They're not independent of one another. So you're going to have good quality control on the job, and quality assurance is going to verify that that's happening. If those two things are going well, you're going to end up with a quality project. So let's look through those a bit. So who's responsible for QA and or QC? Who's ever administering the contract is going to be responsible for quality assurance. Some cases you may be responsible for actually performing QC, but even if not, you're going to need to verify that quality control is taking place. The quality control definitely is a component of quality assurance, and it's ultimately the responsibility of the contract administrator. no matter who is taking on that role. And that seems to be sometimes a point of confusion. If contractors are responsible per the contract for performing quality control, it's still a function of overall quality management. So you really need to be involved in that process and make sure it's at least being verified at the project level, documented, so you can find these bugs and work those out, before you get to the finished product. So probably the best example we could use is concrete testing. So in this QC example, per the contract, contractor is responsible for performing quality control concrete testing. So the QA role here, the contract administrator, either through their own staff or their consultant partners, they need to verify those tests are being performed. They're being performed per the required frequency. The tests are being documented, when and where, how, who performed the test, did they pass, did they fail, all the procedures being followed if the test did not pass. And probably the most important, retaining copies of the test reports for daily documentation. We've seen some instances where, the QA folks on the project weren't retaining those project records. And that's a role of quality assurance on the project. So it's really important that whoever's performing that QA is verifying that quality control is being done when it's supposed to be done, and then maintaining those test reports for those records. That's the only way we know how those things are being done. So quality control, some examples of quality control. These are just a few, but if you think any materials testing on the project, that's a quality control function. Concrete, asphalt, density, soils, high strength bolts, reinforcing steel, bolts in the steel would be sent to a lab. Once again, you would need to retain those records, those testing reports. Another quality control example is verification of grade and location. Is it where it's supposed to be? Is it per plan? That's a function of mutual quality control, quality assurance. And it becomes the responsibility ultimately of the owner. And it also applies regardless of funding type, whether or not the project will be maintained by the locality. It's a good practice to follow, quality assurance outlines for every type of project, whether or not you submit a quality assurance plan. And probably the number one example of quality assurance that we are seeing on our performance reviews there, monthly, semi-monthly, is the daily documentation. If you are not documenting your daily activities on the project to include your quality control procedures, you really have nowhere to go at the end of the project. So someone is going to need to be verifying that the project is constructed per the contract, plans, standard, the specifications. And that documentation in the end is your only resource for conflict resolution and processing change orders. You get to the end of a project or you get into a notice of intent situation, that is where quality assurance comes into play, and you really have no other recourse than your documentation out there during the day. And to hit back on the quality control, the materials testing, we're seeing this missed, on some projects, just because of the confusion, hey, we're performing quality assurance. We're not responsible for quality control because the contractor is responsible for hiring that third-party CE&I firm for materials testing on the job. But it is the responsibility of the locality for the contract administrator to verify that that's being done and document and retain records. So this is probably the most important function of quality assurance. And you see over there on the right, that inspector, whether it's a consultant inspector or a locality staff, that is your best resource during construction. They're going to be your representative in the field. They're going to catch issues up front before they get too far along. And then we go back to documents. You don't want to over document, but documentation is that's your only resource in the end. That's the only way you can verify those projects are built correctly. That's the only way you can resolve some type of conflict. whether it be a time conflict, a change order conflict, or a notice of intent. So just keep in mind your quality management, your quality assurance, quality control, they work hand in hand. They're not independent of one another. So just don't forget that it's not one or the other. They're all one component, and someone is responsible for all of those. So here we are. Quality assurance is more process orientated. Quality control, you're focusing on the final product in the field. So just keep these things in mind and be aware that someone is responsible for overall quality management and quality assurance, even though someone else may be performing quality control. So do you have any questions? So thank you. And I think to piggyback on that one, I think up next we have the town of Benton. They have a pre-recorded presentation, but it will kind of go into kind of a good example of quality assurance, quality control at the project level.
Just hang on one second while we transition from PowerPoint to videos. Folks, I don't think, can somebody nod ahead if you're not hearing the audio or from the video? No, we're not hearing it. Again, we're a group of planners, engineers, and environmentalists. We're not, with us for a few more seconds.
Yeah. You get it working on.
Folks, I swear, we tried this like 3 times in the last few days and it worked like a charm. So just believe me, and we're gonna keep working on here for a few more seconds and then may come back with plan B. We're going to try to work on that offline and see if we can get that back up and running. I'm not real sure what's going on with that. I promise you, it was an awesome video, and I can't oversell it enough. We're gonna make sure we get it to you either in this setting, or we will post it and make the link available whenever we post this particular virtual event. So we're going to move forward on the agenda for right now and move over into the environmental world. And Robin Simpson has a good number of updates that are pretty timely and pretty important. So I just want to encourage you guys to lean into what Robin's got to share with us. So Robin, go ahead.
Okay. Like Anthony said, we've had several big adjustments come up lately. We have a new INIM that is applicable to the roles and responsibilities for the locality administered projects. It introduces our new NEPA cover sheet and the new EQ 199, which takes the place of the EQ 555. It reiterates the need for the environmental certification of consultants, which is covered under INM ED-110. And it introduces Appendix A, which is the required supporting documentation for LAP projects. And then I also have the hyperlinks to this INIM. I assume we're going to send out presentations. So you should be able to reach it through that link. So one of the big changes we have is the NEPA cover sheet. It's been provided or should be provided by VDOT at the project kickoff and or scoping meeting. if the locality is responsible for NEPA. You do not have to fill this out if you determine that VDOT is going to be responsible for NEPA. It will be submitted to VDOT along with the completed NEPA document, and it's composed of several things. Page 1 has general project information, the class of action for your NEPA document, and the environmental certification. Page 2 has your agency coordination for your permits and your T&E species, cultural resources, water resources. And then page 3 covers your commitments, pre-construction, during construction, and post-construction. In page 4, you attest to the accuracy and completeness of the document and supporting documentation. And it will have to be signed by somebody from the locality and our own project coordinators. Then we also have the EQ 199, which is your environmental plan, specification, and estimates form. It took the place of the EQ 555. It was sunset as of May 15th. So at this point on, we will no longer accept the EQ 555. It will have to be the EQ 199. It is required form that is submitted to VDOT with the PS&E package prior to advertisement. And it also asks for general project information, T&E species coordination. Page 2 is dealing with your water quality permit or permits. NEPA commitments pre, during, and post-construction are on page 3. And again, you're going to attest to the accuracy and completeness of your document and your supporting documentation. Again, it will be signed by the locality and by one of our project coordinators. I also have a hyperlink at the bottom to these forms so that you can look at them a little bit better. Appendix A has example documents. It's a comprehensive list of required documentation to be submitted with the NEPA document. It explains the quality of submissions and that can directly impact the project schedule and budget, and tells you what supporting documentation needs to be submitted to VDOT. And you can follow the example documents posted on the environmental external site. And I've got that hyperlink there. It should give you examples of most, not all, but most of the documentation that you will need to have to turn into us to support your NEPA document. And then we have the environmental certification. Most of y'all know that the NEPA and the cultural resource modules are already available on V.U. We have air, noise, and T&E modules that are currently under development, and they're hoping to have out by the end of the year. And you will know when these come out. LAD will broadcast these once they're in V.U. But again, these are covered under the INIM ED-110. And you are supposed to go in, or your consultant, the locality or the consultant, and take these modules prior to doing any of your NEPA documentation and submitting to VDOT. One of the big things that we've been seeing as far as environmental when we're trying to certify projects is the difference between federal and state species coordination. So prior to sending in your completed NEPA document and NEPA cover sheet, you have to have all your federal species coordination completed. That would be through U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. You do not have to do your state species at that time. However, if you are having to obtain water quality permits, you'll have to have both your federal and state species coordination completed prior to submitting your application. That would be with Fish and Wildlife Service, Department of Wildlife Resources, and Department of Natural Heritage. So prior to submitting the EQ 199 to VDOT, you need to make sure all your federal and state species coordination is complete and less than a year old. We would prefer less than 6 months with your EQ 199 submission. Just so you know, your IPAC review package is good for 1 year, but U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has also said that your official species list is only good for 90 days and needs to be updated until advertisement. What we typically do is make sure before y'all submit anything to us, just make sure you update your OSL if it's greater than 90 days and make sure your IPAC package is less than a year old. We have a couple new people that are in our group dealing with LAP projects. Of course, you can always contact me or Bruce Penner. We've got Lindsay Lehman, who is our new environmental planner that some of y'all may have talked to in some of the monthly meetings that we've been having. And we also have Eric Kessler, who is our natural resource specialist, who looks over the T&E and water quality end of things. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact us, and we'll be happy to help in any way we can.
Actually, go back one slide there. We've had a few minutes since we've taken questions here. So does anybody have any questions of either Andrew in the construction world or Robin in the environmental arena? Does anybody have any questions? You want to either raise a hand or just unmute and ask?
When you say this is a new process, if we've got a project already in the pipeline that's close to authorization to bid, I assume we don't have to back up and redo this?
Yes, you will. If we have not done it prior to May 15th, we'll have to have the EQ 199 rather than the EQ 555.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions in environmental or construction? All right, we're going to tempt fate here and try this video again. So if everybody can collectively, if 79 fingers can cross at the same time here, let's see if we can pull this off. So Dan, we'll turn it over to you, Steve.
All right, one thing.
But we will definitely get it sent out to everybody to share.
And reviewed it, so.
All right. As you can tell, we're not IT AV specialists here. We're struggling here, but just letting you know that that video was well intentioned and well done, and we want to make sure that we get that video sent out to you guys. We'll follow up afterwards. We'll post it. We'll put a link to it. It was really good information. We want to thank town event staff for putting that together again. So we're going to move on to the cube, and that, you know, if you've been around VDOT long enough, you know that we love acronyms. This one means cost estimating workbook. It's very important not only during the life of a real project that's been funded and 6-year plan under development, but also for applications. And you know, a lot of you guys are in the application season right now for that. So we'll turn it over to Dave Thompson to talk about the cube.
All right.
Sorry, everybody. Good morning, everybody. Probably most or all of you on the call are familiar with at least the terminology cost estimating workbook, or for short, the cube. And I'm sure some of you, I know some of you are very well adept at already generating the cube from previous projects. So, as most of you are aware, we are now requiring the cube to be submitted with all estimates, whether it's during the application period or on projects already in process. So when you're submitting estimates at any stage during the project, please be sure to submit both the detailed cost estimate and the cube. And I'll go into a little more detail on both of those right now. So this slide here is showing the detailed cost estimate, and I will zoom in on that here in just a moment. But basically, what we want from the detailed cost estimate is only the construction line items and then a construction estimated construction cost total. That is all we want to see on the detailed cost estimate. As far as the other cost items such as PE, right-of-way, CEI, and contingencies, all of that will be inserted into the cost estimating workbook. So here is the current version 2.2 of the cube that I'm sure most of you are aware of and utilizing currently. Just as an FYI, there will be a newer version of the cube coming out soon. that will incorporate updated inflation factors for FY26 and moving forward from there. So right now, I'm going to try to zoom in on both of these aspects and just go over a few details for you on that. So let's start with the cube.
Forward slide.
I'm trying to,
He's sharing.
Good.
So
it's already on.
you're sharing, so just open your Excel. and
There
that'll
we go.
see it.
Okay. Can everyone see that okay?
No.
It's not coming.
On the video.
Share your screen.
There we go. Is it coming through okay? All right, sorry about that. So just to start out and just to clarify that for this demonstration, this is only going through the cube as if we were already on a project in process. But I will emphasize that as far as submitting the cube during the application period, it will need, all of the line items will need to be populated when you're submitting the cube for application, the application process. As far as when we're already in a project, for the PE phase, you can just put in one line item that has a lump sum cost for preliminary engineering. So for instance, you could choose project management. For the source, the drop down, you could just select professional judgment and then just enter in a value here. Again, during the application process, all of these line items would need to be populated. Moving on down, as far as VDOT PE oversight, you would just input directly off of the oversight costs that are shown on the Appendix A. So you just input that here, and then you come down to your contingency. Typically, we're going to use type 1 percentage for contingency. So you pick that in the drop down, and then you put in your value for your percentage, and that calculates that. And then for the phase dates, these are very important dates, especially for the inflation factors that need to be applied. So I've already pre-populated these. The estimate date, of course, is today, and so I just put in some imaginary dates there. May 1st of this year for PE to end March 1st of 2025. And again, these dates are going to be important. Later, I'll talk about the inflation factor tab. So that's all of the PE. Then you move down into the right of way, and it's pretty self-explanatory with the categories. You have your drop downs here for the source, and then you can put in your defined costs here. And then it also has a place for contingencies as well to put in that, just like the PE phase.
That's a good example to show right there that it won't calculate the 20,000 over until you hit the source.
That's correct. Thank you, Adam. Yes, you actually have to click the source in order for it to calculate over. And again, pre-populated the dates, moving from the end of PE phase, putting that in for the right of way, and then the end date there. So then moving down into the construction phase, again here, you will populate all of the line items here, and this will match up with what the items that are on your detailed cost estimate. So let me just zoom in on that. So this shows a good example of a detailed construction estimate. They've broken out the different categories and lumped them together in the estimate. And then at the end, just an overall cost. And again, this is just covering the construction line items, nothing, no contingency, CEI, PE, or anything within this. So again, for instance, let's choose roadway and utilities. We'll go back over to the cube. And as you can see, roadway is one item here. And you just pick something in the drop down, enter your value from the detailed cost estimate. Utilities the same way, or any of the other line items. And then you, again, the VDOT oversight costs are directly from the Appendix A. So you would input those directly here in that line item. Then moving on down, we have a management reserve line item here, and want to make sure everybody's aware of this one. Typically, so here's your drop down of the values. Typically, we're going to choose 5% in that. And what the management reserve is for any unknowns that occur during construction. So this would cover any, any change orders that occur during the construction process. And then, of course, if we're impacting any railroad, if we have any state police, state forces, all of that would be input here in lump sum values. And then, of course, assuming that if all of your values here, if you're going to apply the same contingency to all of your values, you can just select the percentage here. Now, if for some reason, let's picking that anyway. If for some reason you've got different contingencies, you can okay. If you have different contingencies for each item, you can pick those as well. For some reason, my spreadsheet is locked up here, so I may not be able to go on. But again, most of you are aware of the inflation summary tab. That's where your inflation factors are put in against the cost estimate based on the dates that you put in for your different phases. And also, failed to go over the one more item, the construction engineering, the CEI. Typically, that's going to be a lump sum value that you put in for a CEI. And we want to see that on line item 2 there where it says CEI, VDOT, or locality. That is where we want that input. So you would select for your source there beside CEI source, it would be typically lump sum. And then on the second line there, you would put in your lump sum value, and that would come typically directly off of your CEI contract that you already have in place.
In some cases, early on, it might be a percentage, in which case, when you're early in the project, you've got that contract value. So in that case, you just select percentage.
And with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Jesse Nestor.
All right. Good morning, and I'm Jesse. I'm the program manager here in the Salem district. And I'd like to take just a minute to talk about one very specific issue here that I'm sure many of you are familiar with. And that is bidder qualifications and how those are identified in the bidding documents. And so the issue that we're seeing here is that a lot of times, especially in standardized bidding documents like the EJCDC documents, the language regarding bidder qualifications is typically vague and really doesn't identify any specific requirements of the bidder. And so here, an example would be in evaluating whether a bidder is responsible. Owner will consider the qualifications of the bidder and may consider the qualifications and experience of subcontractors and suppliers. But again, it says that the owner can consider the qualifications but it never identifies exactly what those qualifications are. And so we'll continue on here. Another example that's typically found in the same set of bidding documents. Owner may conduct such investigations as owner deems necessary to establish the responsibility, qualifications, financial ability of bidders and any proposed subcontractors or suppliers. So again, we frequently find this statement, but we don't actually find any explicit requirements as to what qualifications the bidder is required to have. So let's move on and see what the LAP manual has to say about this topic. So here in section 12.6.3, which is development of invitation for bid, which we also refer to as contract documents, bidding documents. We kind of use those terms interchangeably. It specifically says that they must comply with 23 CFR 635, which is the federal regulation. And then also we find under 12.6.6 other federal aid requirements that for traditional highway construction federal aid projects, local governments, with the exception of TA projects and UCI municipalities, which we only have one UCI municipality in our district, must use VDOT pre-qualified contractors. So this statement would only apply to just the federal aid projects that are traditional highway construction. All right, so let's move on and take a look at 23 CFR, which is the federal code there that's referenced in the LAP manual. And what it points us towards here, so we're in subpart A, contract procedures, and the section specifically is addressing licensing and qualifications of contractors. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I want to point out just about the first half of it here, that the procedures and requirements that are used for qualifying and licensing contractors, again, to bid for and be awarded or perform federal aid highway contracts shall be submitted to the division administrator for approval. So I'm going to rephrase this a little bit because the locality is acting as an extension of VDOT, and VDOT is acting as an extension of FHWA. So I'm going to reread this as procedures and requirements a locality proposes to use must be submitted to VDOT for approval. All right, so what does this all mean? So first of all, let's talk about some things that you can do. This is not to discourage using qualifications. We just have to approach it in a manner that complies with the federal regulations. So first of all, you can utilize the VDOT pre-qualification program. Next, you can establish procedures and requirements for qualifying bidders. You just have to go through the appropriate approvals. And you can actually request bidder qualifications, but you can't use it to disqualify a bidder unless you provide those very specific requirements. All right, with that, I'm going to pass it on to Al.
I know everyone's been excited about project-wise deliverables management. You've heard about it for the last 6 months for most of you, maybe a little longer than that. Edge of your seat, wonder what's coming up next year and where we stand. Well, just a reminder on the basic processes. As a locality, when you need access to project-wise deliverables management, you contact your project coordinator to get the IT forms set up. And of course, our IT system is they're very strict about permissions and forms and all sorts of processes. So we will initiate a DocuSign process form. You don't use the standard forms anymore. We'll need your name and email and your supervisor's name and email to enter into that, and it'll generate an automated email system to send these two forms to you, the LD 899 and the ITD 36E. Remember on the LD 899 to set user type to locality employee and project-wise access to read only, not read write. Set it to read only. Then you get once you submit that, you get a follow-up email with instructions for your initial setup. And then you'll need to take the PWDM new user hands-on training. That's an online virtual thing. I think it's a couple hours. But there, of course, have been some complications with the initial setup. There are two main issues. Either you find that you were assigned wrong project UPCs and PWDM, or more likely you're not assigned to some or all of your localities projects in there. As you can see, even for mine, we're experiencing the same issue here. I have one for Blacksburg, I have one for Christiansburg, and then for some reason I have one for Charlottesville. I don't know why. That's just one example. You might find the same things when you look at yours. So for yours, you go to Bentley Connect Center projects and click on My Projects. And if you're looking for yourself, looking for your projects and you can't find them, contact your LAP project coordinator and let us know what the problem is in an email. We're trying to gather that database of information so that we can send it on to our IT department to fix. Just remember that if you're not in there, make sure you have done these things. You've submitted those IT forms, you've set up the PWDM, and you've taken the online training, because you cannot be added in until you've done those particular things. Also, I want to point out that the Local Assistance Division has a web page for information and resources, and in that is the PWDM hands-on online training dates. There's a training for a new user, and there's a refresher option if you'd like to take that if it's been a little while. And there's also a sign-up link for the sessions in there. There are resources, YouTube training videos, job aids, and how to do specific submittals in there. If you need a reminder, that's if you have to make a submittal. And remember, they are requiring to use PWDM on locally administered projects. Obviously, you have to be in the system and have it set up and working to do that. But eventually we will get there. So does anybody have any questions on any of these last three topics, Cube, bidder qualifications, or PWDM?
Yeah, feel free to either try to raise a hand or just unmute and speak up. And I'm sure there are questions out there. We've been running through a lot of this information really fast this morning. We feel like we always inundate you guys with a lot of information, but there's a lot going on in the LAP world and in the local assistance world. So just want to pause for a few seconds, see if anybody has any questions about anything we've covered thus far.
Jesse was going to try the video from his computer.
We really want to try Thursday?
Might as well. I want to try.
All right. So I don't know if you heard that or not. We've got a group of folks full of perseverance, and they want to try the Benton video once again. I have no clue what this means, what I need to unshare, whatever. You guys take care of it. The town of Benton said, this is how much we thank your video. We're trying. Let's stop here though. If we can't get it on the third one, we'll post it. So Adam or Jesse, or whoever's going to try to run that, please feel free to try it.
Jess is going to try to share from his computer.
All right, I'm here, Adam. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
All right. I should be sharing my screen. Can you guys see that?
Yep.
Okay. Let's hit play. Can you hear that?
No sounds. Did you select the option when you shared?
All right. I didn't see an option, but let me try that again. Oh, here it is. Share sound. Hey. All right. Let's try this one more time. And let's see. I probably need to turn this. It's turned all the way up. All right. Here we go. Let's try.
Amy Hurd. I'm the Capital Projects Manager for the town of Benton. I have the privilege of working with Anita McMillan. She's the Planning and Zoning Director for the town. And together we work to manage LAP projects. Anita serves as the project manager, and then I provide construction oversight in the field. Give you just a little bit of my background. I'm a licensed contractor, been with the town now for a little over 2 years, and was hired in this role to oversee the town's transportation projects and other construction projects in the town. I'd like to thank Andrew and VDOT for allowing us to share a little bit of our experiences as we have been managing LAP projects here, well, myself for the last 2 years, Anita a little bit longer than that. I can say over these last 2 years, learned a lot about LAP projects, still got plenty to learn, but I can say I really do enjoy the LAP projects and and then construction contractors. As I look back over the projects over the last 2 years, think of many opportunities where we worked together as a team to kind of deal with different challenges and issues as they arose. I guess one sticks out more than maybe the rest, and that's the first project that we did here in the town, at least in my time here in the town, and that was the Walnut Avenue Phase 1 project. Project area circled there in red. Walnut Avenue Phase 1 project extended from the Roanoke City line down to the Glade Creek Greenway. Busy section of the Walnut corridor. Many challenges in this area, heavy traffic, a lot of pedestrian travel. So definitely a challenging project area. The bulk of this project was installing sidewalks on the north side of the road and then a 10-foot wide shared use path on the south side of the road. Several ADA ramps throughout this project, and that really is where we're going to focus today, or what I'm going to speak about today is the challenge that we had with those ADA ramps. We had challenges with the detectable warning mats on the ramps. You can kind of see down in the picture here, especially the one in the middle, the mats were installed on a radius requiring them to be cut. The style of mat that we had has a metal stud that sticks out and then is pressed down into the concrete and it holds the mat in place. I'm sure this is probably familiar to many of you. You can see when we cut the mats, or when the contractor cut the mats, he cut out several of the studs to form the radius. When that happened, you can tell, you see that stud there kind of in the middle of the middle picture. It left an area of 4 or 5, in some areas 6 inches of mat that was kind of loose, which in our first rain, these pictures were taken kind of shortly after that, you can see that it washed debris and dirt, and really the picture doesn't quite do justice, but that mat in the middle was starting to come up and curl up. And as they curled up, the ramps were holding water, and of course that's an issue, and just kind of creating an unsafe situation, and really long-term for the town, kind of a maintenance nightmare for us. This issue was brought to my attention by our CEI inspector. He noticed it, gave me a call, asked if I could come out to the site, which I frequently did. Showed up, we kind of looked at the situation, determined, yeah, this is going to be a problem. We need to make the contractor aware of the issues. So we brought him over, showed him the deficiency. Of course, wasn't too excited to hear that, but we let him know that he needed to go ahead and start thinking about a correction for this issue. After just a little bit of time, I think came to the realization that really the only way to correct this problem was to demo out the ADA ramps and go ahead and replace them. So unfortunately, that's what we had to do. I think there were 7 ramps that were affected by this. And so once we decided that they needed to come out, then it was like, okay, what can we do different to prevent this from happening? And we determined we really just need to make a change in material. These mats, and I'm sure have been cut in the past, and I've heard that people replace the studs and can have some success with that. CEI firm did some research, found out that the particular mats that we were using really weren't designed to be cut. So we just decided not to go back that route and try to cut them and then reinstall studs. We just really wanted to find a different product. So the contractor did some looking, we did some looking, came back with a different kind of mat. Some mats probably about an inch, inch and a quarter thick. The underside of it was a webbed kind of composite material. So the webbing went throughout the entire mat and really allowed for you to cut the mat without compromising the structural integrity of the mat. So we decided, okay, this seems like a good and reasonable solution. So we went ahead and re-poured those ADAs and installed the new style of mat cut on the radius. Here in this slide, this is a picture of the ADA ramps after we replaced them. This is the new product that we chose. You can tell better installation. The ramps were no longer holding water. The mats weren't turning up. They were very well adhered into the concrete. So this was an acceptable repair and replacement of those mats, and we think they turned out well. I was curious if there were other alternatives. So knowing that we had several more projects with more ADA ramps in the future, continued to just kind of investigate, talk with Andrew, work with the CEI firm, talked about several different things. And Andrew had mentioned that Roanoke City was using some cast mats, was having some good success with that. So we explored that a little bit more. Really like the idea of the durability of the cast mats. Now, I will say contractors not too excited about working with the cast mats. They're a little more difficult, definitely heavier, and if you have to cut them, a little more difficult to cut. But from locality standpoint, looking at long-term maintenance, definitely was a better product for us. So going forward, kind of the evolution of this process, we've now been through 3 different types of detectable mats, and we've settled on the cast mats and have been using them on current projects, and we have them spec'd on several future projects. We've kind of made that the town's standard for detectable warning mats. This is just really one instance where we ran into a little bit of an issue, and then just everybody came together, worked together to make the correction, provide a good product for the citizens, and then also gave us a path forward for the future and something that we felt really good about with using the cast mats. So I guess I would just stress, just really be involved in the construction process. I know the town prioritizes that. They've allowed me, I'm on the site every day and checking in with the contractors, CEI firms. I can say that I'm making decisions out there every single day, answering questions, and have been told through the contractors and CEI firms that, man, it's really, really nice to have someone from the locality here on a regular basis to kind of talk over things with and get opinions on things and make some decisions out there. Just facilitates a quick project. I can provide quick answers for them, which eliminates delays, and that's obviously in everybody's best interest, is to just keep things kind of moving as quickly as we can. Obviously keeping things on budget as well. But I just want to stress to you, just spend some time out there, get to know these guys. They're great to work with. Once you have that relationship with everybody, then things just seem to work definitely much smoother. It's definitely been a benefit for the town for us to play such an active role in the construction process. Just really thankful for the resources that VDOT has provided to us. We have a great team that we get to work with VDOT. Want want to thank the VDOT Salem district personnel. Really couldn't do this without you guys. So Anthony, Jay, Cheryl on the programming funding side, thank you so much. Lori, Brianna, civil rights, thank you. LAP project coordinators, Jesse, David, couldn't do this without you guys. And then lastly, Andrew, thank you so much for your help in the field. Just been a great resource for me and helping us kind of work through challenges as they arise. And all of us together have done just a great job making these LAP projects here in the town successful. So thanks again for your time and have a great day.
All right. Thank you, Town of Benton staff. Thank you, Jesse, for persevering there. If you've ever wondered if our staff would roll up our sleeves and keep trying until we figure something out, that's an example of that. You're probably also thinking that we were so adamant about playing this video because we got so many accolades at the back at the end. That is not why we wanted to play the video, but appreciate the town staff for putting it together, and hopefully everybody got something out of that. Hey, Adam, anything you want to say on this slide before we move on to the next one?
No, we keep moving at a blistering pace.
We'll keep moving the blistering space. All right. So if I go to the next slide, hopefully you guys are hearing me now again and also seeing the PowerPoint back again. I want to spend just a few moments, and I promise it'll be brief, talking about the LAP Sustained Performance Program. If you came to the statewide local program workshop 2 times ago, you heard our commissioner introduce this topic, share with the local government staff, project coordinators, consultants, and others of this somewhat kind of different way of measuring and monitoring locally administered projects. And so that was about a year and a half or so, a little bit more ago. We talked about this in somewhat in depth last year at our LAP day that we had down at Ferrum. Many of you guys attended. We talked about this in some detail. And so we thought it'd be good just to hit some of the high points again about this measurement and monitoring program and how it impacts you guys and how you guys kind of fit into this. So I'm not going to read all this information. I'm going to run through this pretty quick. A lot of these are just screenshots from the Power BI, that tool that's being used. But primarily, you see there on the screen, the Locality Sustained Performance Program focuses on 3 metrics. One is on time, one is reasonable progress, and in fiscal management, which is really one of the bigger ones, that metric was added, honestly, at the request of local government staff. Some of our larger urban partners around the state pushed back and said, dashboard's great, green and red lights are great, but what really moves us and moves the elected officials is how much money do we have in hand that's not been spent yet? So we've incorporated this fiscal management portion of that into this measurement tool. I want to spend a few moments grabbing my mouse, of trying to figure out, which of these metrics are more usable for you guys and how you can help us deliver the program more efficiently. So this first slide here this was the first LSPP list that was generated, and you'll see here on the screen in November of 2023. So they did a first cut of the data back using information that was available at that time. And in our district, we had 2 localities that flushed to the top, if you want to look at it that way, of the list that were identified as not attaining the metrics that were laid out. Now, we have redacted the locality names. We've learned from previous events to try to keep the innocent out of the mix, or even keep those that are guilty out of the mix. So we've redacted the names that were on the initial list that came out in November of 23. And you see statewide there was 14 or 15 localities that fell into this non-attainment category. And primarily to get on this, you had to be administering more than 5 active projects and not be meeting 2 or more of the metrics that are laid out that we're going to run through here in the next few minutes. So that was a list from November of 2023. As I go to this next image, this was updated. I pulled this in May 1st, so obviously there's a little time even between now and then. We're down to just 1 locality that's still on the non-attainment list. The other locality that was on that list initially has dropped off because they have awarded a number of projects as the goal that everybody has to do that, and have actually come off the list. So this is the list as of May 1st, 2024. And I want to just real quick, again, I want to real quick go through some of these tabs that are in the live action Power BI. So again, we talked about we measure on time, reasonable progress, and fiscal management. So again, this is not a locality in our district. This is Hampton in the Hampton Roads district. And I will point out, I should have said this earlier, if you guys are having any hard time seeing any of this information on your screen today, you go down to the bottom left in Teams and click the little plus sign. You can actually zoom in and pan around on the screen as you see fit. But this on the on-time metric, primarily what we're looking at here is I'm going left to right on the bottom of the screen. Your previous 2 fiscal years, what percentage of your projects from the previous two fiscal years are green? The middle category, we're looking at your active projects. So what percentage of those are green? And then on the far right, and the bottom right, what percentage of projects that should have been awarded in previous fiscal years but have not? So let's say, for example, you had a couple projects that should have been awarded in fiscal year 23, but for whatever reason they haven't been, it's reflected on here. What we're trying to do is highlight those carryover projects that, again, that should have been awarded but have not. And we're monitoring that and trying to work with localities to get that down to zero, obviously. As we move into reasonable progress, it's a little harder to explain and understand, but at the 30,000 foot level, basically what we've done here, and again, at the statewide level, is there was a request by the localities to say, hey, listen, sometimes if we miss the dashboard date to advertise by 1 day, you guys are saying we're red, and that's not fair. And we can sit and argue the merits of that argument all day. But at the end of the day, if one misses an advertisement date, for example, by 1 day, but they got it within the month, should we give them credit? So this reasonable progress portion of the LSPP program takes a look and says, for example, look there at the top left where it says start development authorized PE. So they give you basically a 90-day buffer. So whatever your dashboard date was, if you accomplish it within that 90-day buffer, you get credit for it, for lack of a better term. Same thing with right-of-way authorization, same thing with advertisement, and similar with awards. So there's this little, under the umbrella of reasonable progress, we're trying to give folks credit for, somewhat adhering to the dashboard dates, often getting these authorizations within the same fiscal year, which really at the end of the day is really a big target. And I'll just spend just a few moments talking about fiscal management. This again, at the end of the day, was a big needle mover for a lot of the local government staff, a lot of the elected officials. So for this locality, this is Hampton. Again, nobody in our district. And for Hampton, they had $32.96 million of federal state allocations in previous funds. This is not out year money. This is not like fiscal year 27, 28. This is previous allocations and back. They have to date, whenever I ran this back on May 1st, they've spent $3.86 million of that allocation, remaining 29.1. So they still have 88% of their funds unexpended. Therefore, they're not meeting the metric of having spent at least 20% of their unexpended federal and state allocations. So they got flagged. Hopefully that makes sense. I just want you guys to know that there's a lot of focus, a lot of concern, a lot of attention on previous allocations that are, for lack of a better term, sitting around not being used. So I have a couple more slides here, but I want to mention before I forget, today, localities cannot go directly to this Power BI and see this information directly with your own eyes. What I would encourage you to do, if you want to take a deep dive into this information, please set up a call with your project coordinator. It would either be Adam or Dave or any of the programming staff as well. We can share screens with you. We can walk through. If this was a live action demonstration, I could hover over the little the information button. It would have a little pop up, give you some more information about what this is. Back on some of the previous screens, you can actually click on some of the boxes and it'll open up a table that shows you the actual projects that are of concern in your district or in your locality rather. But again, one of the main points of concern is this fiscal management. You can imagine that whenever our commissioner, our secretary, others go to elected officials in Richmond and start talking about we need more funding for transportation, if there's any thought that folks have not spent what's already been allocated, then obviously that's a big concern. So we're monitoring the fiscal management of projects on the local side, and I'll just stop there and say it's a big point of concern. So again, I'm using the Hampton example. If you were in the live demonstration, you click on that locality performance and you scroll. If you look down toward the bottom of the screen, you see for Hampton, they're meeting the on-time metric, they're meeting the reasonable progress metric, but they're not meeting the fiscal management metric. So they are actually in attainment because they're meeting 2 of the 3 goals, or 2 of the 3 metrics. This again is just a high-level snapshot of where we stood back on May 1st from a overall statewide perspective. All of the localities, you can see for the bottom bars for the Salem district, we have that one locality that's still not meeting the metric, and we're following up with them as needed. I will say, I think it's the last slide. Yeah, before I go on to the next slide, I will say that it's not real certain how this LSPP is being used or will be used, But I will tell you that it was a focus of attention and discussion with this recent round of HSIP funding. We had a locality that wanted to, that applied for HSIP funding for like a downtown pedestrian crossing, some safety project. But they were actually flagged in the LSPP as not meeting all the metrics. So our commissioner picked up on that. And we had some pretty in-depth conversations about whether or not we should fund that project, who should be administering that project. And I just give you guys that as an example to say, it's not, to me, it's not 100% clear of how it's going to be used, but I can tell you one example of how it was used. And so this is a pretty important metric. Again, it's not brand new. We've been talking about it now for a year and a half or more. But if you want to dive deep into it, please set up a call with your project coordinator or myself or Jay or anybody else. And we'd be glad to go through this and show you where you land on this and what projects are being maybe viewed. And you may be sitting there thinking, well, I'd like to know how much unexpended cash we have, because you may be getting questions from your elected officials there at either council or board of supervisors. We can give you that information as well. Again, it's good information to have, and we want to make sure we get it in your hands. So with that, and this plays very well into the next topic, as I was kind of pounding the drum there of fiscal management, Jay's going to talk about just VDOT funds management as a whole. So with that, I'm going to pass over the clicker to Jay.
So wanted to point out a couple of things that, as Anthony pointed out, that your funds management does have a significant impact on your sustained performance. There are definitely implications there. And the importance of that, making sure that we've got money moving in the right places at the right time is sort of one of programming's major roles here at VDOT. And to point out some ways that you can potentially manage your funds management, your fiscal management in the sustained performance. If you have timely submittal of reimbursement requests, that's sort of the lowest hanging fruit there is. Spending money spends down your prior unexpended funds. So I want everybody to keep in mind that LEP policy recommends monthly, but no less than every 90 days. We have sort of gotten away from that as a district, to be honest with you. We'd love to see more timely submittals from everyone. If you're not doing them monthly, that's okay. But keep in mind that if things went real south real quick, anything that's submitted beyond 90 days is outside of current policy. So at a minimum, please try to submit submittals every 90 days. There's a lot of benefits to that. It keeps our LAP partners up to date on how much VDOT charges are hitting those projects. It makes sure we're all on the same page in our allocations and invoices. We call it the A&I spreadsheet that we send you guys when there's a reimbursement submitted, so that you're tracking the VDOT costs, how much we've reimbursed, what types of funds are being spent at that point. It just keeps us all on the same page. When we go a long time in between submittals, if there's any transfers of fund types or things like that happen between those reimbursement requests, it can get very messy. Some of you know exactly what we're talking about. It's a good idea, even if the reimbursements seem like they're small. It keeps projects alive. If you have revenue sharing projects, for instance, that it's been a great deal of time since you've submitted a reimbursement request, keep in mind that program in particular, if you go a year without spending money, it comes up on the deallocation list. Once upon a time, as long as your VDOT project coordinators or someone here was charging to those projects, that didn't matter. That was going to keep it off the list. But now they are looking specifically for reimbursement requests. Are we actually paying the localities who are implementing these projects for work that they're doing? So more and more emphasis is being put on the frequency and how much money we are spending as a group, us and you guys together. As Ken pointed out at the very beginning, the importance of scope, schedule, and estimate updates is becoming more and more important across all of the metrics that we use to monitor how both VDOT and LAP programs and projects are being delivered. The importance of your scope, schedule, and estimates impact behind the scenes things that we do here. Like if you ever hear your project coordinators talking about, we have to get that posted in Cardinal. Whether we get fund verifications, projects, simply getting them open to charges, federal authorizations and obligations are even more important because we can't even begin to start letting you spend money or processing reimbursements if we haven't squared everything away with federal highway in the very beginning. So your scope, schedule, and estimates, if you're going to have major changes, you're going to need additional funds and you're requesting those funds, we need to get agreements updated. We need to get those funds programmed and obligated. We need to get them verified so that we can open the different phases that you're working on. So all of those things are very, very important to your funds management. And then the final thing I wanted to touch on, the last bullet there, if you are aware that you have a project that your delivery schedule is changing, let us know as soon as you can that you think there's going to either be a delay or that you want to go earlier with that project. There's no guarantee that we can do anything about that, but we may have some flexibility depending on the type of funding that you have on your project and how much money we've got in balance entry accounts or programmed to other projects in the state or in our district or even in your locality. We may be able to do some fund swapping, some transfers to keep your projects moving when you want them moving. And that may be beneficial to one of your partners that's online with us today. We may have two separate localities, both moving in different directions with their schedules that we could help line that up behind the scenes and kind of make that work. So just continue as you already are, but as a reminder, continue to share your scope, schedule, estimate changes with your PCs. Let us know if there's going to be delays or that you want to move early on the project and submit those reimbursement requests. And those are kind of the easiest ways to make sure that your fiscal management within the sustained performance reports and many other things that we're currently looking at on reports are as good as they can be. I think that was the last.
Yeah, let's take questions before we move on to the locality of the year. Or does anybody have any questions about the LSPP or the funds management you'd like to ask briefly? All right, we're hearing none, and I see Dr. Smoot. I see you have stuck with us. I appreciate your perseverance in sticking with us this morning, and again, appreciate your participation in this as always. So we're gonna move into the one of my favorite parts of this event and this day. We've been doing this for a number of years now, is recognizing our locality of the year. I'm going to show. Well, let me go ahead and go there right now. This is a list of previous winners. This is kind of our Hall of Fame, if you will, of folks who've won over the years. You see, we started this in 2018 with City of Galax, 2019 City of Roanoke, Christiansburg went on a Chicago Bulls-like run there for a number of years. City of Salem snuck in there in 22, and then this year we're going to recognize our 2024 winner. And we started this. I remember when we first started talking about this, somewhat as a joke, saying, we're a lot of us are wired with competitive natures, and I bet some of the folks in localities are as well. And so we, introduced an idea like this to introduce some competition. I think folks would get on board with it. I know a lot of folks have. Almost every year after we've done this, folks have approached us and said, hey, how do we win? How do we score better? What do we need to do? And it's not just the score. It's not just the plaque, because that is just representative of the efforts for delivering the projects for your constituents. So again, we think this is a good opportunity to kind of pause and recognize folks' good efforts with that. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Smoot here in a moment. But before we do, I want to just reiterate what we do is, I was going to joke and say that we just pull a name out of a hat every year, but we don't. And you guys are seeing on the screen right now, these are the categories that we look at. And we actually have a pretty exhaustive effort. We have a spreadsheet, surprise, surprise, for us engineers to go in there, and we score every single locality, everything from communication and participation to project development delivery, all the way to performance. I'm going to just real quick highlight some of these. Whenever we offer training opportunities to the locality staff from that particular locality, do they participate? We have district project pipeline meetings. We have those once every 4 months. I and planning staff and programming and traffic engineering and residency sets aside time every 4 months, and it's time consuming every 4 months to meet with localities to talk about your project ideas, planning studies. How do we line up funding with your project ideas? And so if you participate in those, you get points for locality of the year. Do you have folks that have completed the qualification program at your locality? Under project development delivery, how good are you with your plan and document submittals? Whenever our project coordinators coordinate with you and ask questions, how responsive are you? Whenever Andrew goes out to a construction site, is he seeing things set up properly? Is he seeing good documentation? Then under performance, we're looking at your dashboard numbers. We're looking at your schedule, your budget numbers. We're looking at how many projects did you actually complete with a final reimbursement during this year of measuring. And then the last bottom right of the image is two new images that incorporate that into the scoring locale of the year. And then the last one there is, how are you doing compared to last year? Are you making progress? Are you making strides in delivering your program? So we want to give folks credit for those. So I will tell you that before I reveal third and second, because I'm going to let Dr. Smoot get the glory for recognizing the first place winner, I will tell you the yet to be named winner. I'm going to give you some general attributes for them. This locality that you're going to hear here in a minute does have very active participants in our district project pipeline meetings. They've attended all the training that we offered over the past 12 months. They have multiple staff that has completed the LAP qualification program, and they have very excellent communication and responsiveness to VDOT inquiries. Now, why do I tell you that? That's the answer to whenever somebody comes and says, well, how do we win? Well, I just gave you four bullet points right there of this year's winner has done that. So if you can mirror that, you will be in a good spot to win the next year. But Dr. Smoot, if you could be on the ready, I'm going to reveal the ones who come up on the podium, but not quite the gold trophy yet. So I want to identify that snuck into fourth place. Roanoke County has made some great strides over the previous years. They've not quite made it to the podium yet for the bronze medallion, but I want to recognize Roanoke County because they've made strides and they came up fourth place in scoring this year. So kudos to you guys for putting in the effort, and I want to recognize you guys for fourth place. Third place, Town of Christiansburg, still on the podium there. Let's just call a spade a spade. You guys had some staff turnover the last year. You filled those voids. You're making great strides. So I want to recognize you guys in third place for this year. Second place, Town of Benton. And I swear we did not just give them extra points because they did the video. That just popped in my head. We did not do that. Although that's not a bad idea. Maybe you other localities want to put together some videos. Maybe you can earn some extra points there, but that's not true. Town of Benton did a great job over this past year and has really stepped up and made strides as well. So unless I click incorrectly, and I really hope I don't, and the next one. So Dr. Smoot has joined us again, has been gracious enough to be with us all morning. He always makes time to come to these events. And so Dr. Smoot, I'm going to turn over to you to make any general comments you have. And whenever you're ready to identify the winner, I'm going to go to the next slide and we'll reveal that. So I'm going to turn it over to you right now. We're not hearing you. If your microphone's muted.
Okay, I hope the volume is on now. And thanks, Anthony, thank you for your leadership of this program. And I appreciate each of the people who have joined in the program this morning. Local assistance is a two-way street. It's the assistance that the folks at the district level can provide the localities, and it's the work that the localities do carry out these programs, and both are absolutely necessary to advocate for and obtain funding at the state level. I can tell you from working in state government for a number of years that one thing that is very dangerous is to leave money laying around unspent. It has a way over time of disappearing, and not just in construction projects, but otherwise as well. So the on time and on budget completion of projects is absolutely critical to obtaining additional funding going forth. The winner, if you will, of the local assistance award program this year has excelled in these metrics. Of the 11 projects that the town advertised for construction last year, 10 were on time. 9 of those already awarded, 4 currently under construction, and 5 completed. And that is exactly the kind of performance that is supported at the state level, and the state is looking for as it views funding opportunities going forward. So the locality of the year, based on the various metrics, is the town of Blacksburg. I want to congratulate the town of Blacksburg on their performance and their achievement of this designation. Anthony, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Smoot. And I will let you know that, Dr. Smoot, I had nothing to do with that Hoagie image that's on your screen right now. A little sick on the stomach about it, but I'm going to see my way through it.
But I know Dr. Smoot.
Dr. Smoot does appreciate it. He has the Hoagie football behind his head. I'm going to mail him a W1 before Christmas this year, I promise. But so Dr. Smoot, I don't know if you want to share any of the spotlight projects for the town, or I'd be glad to do that as well. But I just wanted to highlight some of the projects that the town delivered this year so folks can get an idea of maybe what some of the work that's going on in that area. Do you want to cover that, or would you like me to do it?
Well, Anthony, you go ahead. You have those, and we have looked at those. And I also want to say to this group that I am somewhat of an equal opportunity person. While I am through and through Hokie, one of my sons went to the University of Virginia, and I like the Wahoos too. And we're blessed in the Commonwealth with a number of very good colleges and universities, and I'd like to see them all do well.
Good deal. I appreciate those comments. And I will add just real quick, I want to highlight some of the projects that the town accomplished this past year of measurement. They completed the Main Street pedestrian improvement project as a $1.2 million TA or transportation alternatives project. Included pedestrian safety improvements along Main Street between Roanoke Street and Lee Street. And that project was awarded during the past year and actually is currently under construction. They also completed multiple full depth paver reclamation projects totaling over $800,000, addressing failing pavements of the town streets. And lastly, they've also completed multiple SGR or steady good repair primary extension paving projects, including the ADA components, over $500,000 in those. And so again, just want to give some examples of some of the projects that the town completed during this past year. Again, as Dr. Smoot said, that they have completed a lot of projects this past year, a lot of them on budget and on time, which is not just some cool phrases that we throw around. They're actually very important to the development of our program and the partnership that the town provides. So I don't know if any town staff is on the call right now, and we're not asking you to unmute and make any grand speech like you won an Oscar, but just know, and actually let me grab it back here. Let's see, I'll hold it towards the camera. I've got the plaque here that we will make sure that we get down to town staff here in the near future, the town of Blacksburg staff. And then we also have a larger perpetual plaque that we keep near our auditorium that I know you guys can't see on the camera, but I promise I'm holding it up. That also documents the winner for all the previous years. So we keep that here at the district so folks can see it as they come and go. But again, congratulations to town of Blacksburg staff for being the 2024 locality of the year. So thanks everybody for listening on that. So Ken, Ken, if you have any, that hand ready is on. So
yeah,
again,
Anthony, I was just going to say thank you. I won't do any grand speech, but we appreciate VDOT and everything that you and your staff have done for us and helping us get projects done, get on track with things, and all the other stuff. So I'll just keep it short and sweet. We appreciate working with you all. It's been a great collaboration over the years, and we look forward to continuing that for many years to come.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. And again, we're going to coordinate with David Clark, the resident engineer for your area, and we're going to try to get down there in the next few weeks. Matt, I would love to find, you guys have a council meeting that's, maybe during the day or something, we could come down and still a few minutes on your agenda to hand you the plaque, take a few pictures, and make sure you guys get the accolades that you deserve. So we'll coordinate that with you guys here in the coming weeks. So thank you very much. Ken, would you like to have any closing remarks, kind of the State of the Union, if you will, for locally administered, anything that's come to mind as we work through today? I have a few slides I want to wrap up with, but Ken, I want to give you an opportunity as well.
Yeah, well, certainly I'll take the opportunity while I have the mic to congratulate the town of Blacksburg, as well as all the others that did such great work this year in delivering programs. And I really appreciate Dr. Smoot's comments about the fact that, it is our responsibility to go seek out those funds that are necessary for our community to try to make improvements. But, as we get those funds, we need to be timely about spending it, because unspent dollars do have a way of slipping out of our fingers or getting us into trouble. And we want to be taking those limited resources and keeping those put to use to the benefit of the public that we're serving. So, time is of the essence. I really, as I started off the meeting, You're talking about really what we're all about doing here in these workshops is to make sure we understand the processes that are required in order for us to execute, to develop and deliver these projects and execute those in an efficient way. So we certainly welcome your comments about streamlining and improving the processes to get the needed resources on the ground as quickly as possible. That's what it's all about. And the one thing, as I talked about, be mindful as you identify, new ideas, and new ideas are great, of needs and opportunities, and you're looking to try to seek money. But let's be realistic as well and not try to have these projects that get created that have a little bit of money on them and years go by and you're still trying to gather together the funds to try to execute a project. That's the kind of thing that's more and more frowned on. So certainly as Anthony and team, as we come around and talk with folks about what your needs are, what your desires are, and where we might have resources to line up and meet those needs, just make sure you take a good inventory of that scope, schedule, budget, to know that as we push forward with trying to get funds on a UPC, a Uniform Project Code, that we do have indeed a foreseeable and committed way to deliver that project. So I just can't encourage that enough, that make sure we've got a committed scope, schedule, and budget and a real path forward for delivery within a set time period. Our commissioner is really pushing us on 6 years. 2 years PE, 2 years right away, 2 years construction is kind of cited. Now, those numbers may be off a little bit. It needs to be maybe 2.5 years on PE and 2 years on right away and 2 years of construction. But really the goal of trying to begin from the beginning, the birth of the project, to the completion and closeout of the financial closeout of the job within like a 6-year period of time. And when you look at our entire portfolio of projects, we've got a lot that have lived a lot longer than that. So the expectation that's being placed on us, and I think that's a good push. I mean, because we do need to be actionable. So I just share that with each of you to be mindful about the projects that you've got in your portfolio and go back through and look at those. And if that project's been around a long time and you've been trying to assimilate money to it, it may be time to really look at what's the scope of that effort. Can you break that into a phase and bring that phase to completion? But that's the type of execution we're being asked to focus on. So again, I congratulate all the strong performance this past year. I certainly celebrate the partnership that we have with one another, and I look forward to any ideas you have about ways that we can strengthen our processes and certainly strengthen our partnership as well. And certainly look forward to seeing you later in September, as it's on the screen right now, face to face, and we can have some discussion over a cup of coffee about ways that we can continue to do our best. So I appreciate each of you for being a part of the program. And Anthony, I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Ken. And thanks again, Dr. Smoot. And as Ken just alluded to, the statewide local purpose workshop will be in our backyard here in September. Registration will open up in July. And so be on the lookout for some information coming out from that. You see down at the bottom of the screen, I've got a link that will take you to the local purpose workshop. Again, registration is not open yet, but it should be open in July. So be on the lookout for more information there. Just a couple more slides you guys can hang with us. This is your Salem District LAP contacts. Now, this could probably be a couple slides deep because, truth be told, there's a lot of other people that have hands-on projects that you guys are involved with. Our planning staff, our L&D staff, material staff, right-of-way staff. I mean, there's a lot of folks that get involved. But this is some of your primary contacts. I do want to point out just two quick things on this slide. One, you see Jesse Nestor's program manager titles in a different color. Jesse formerly was one of your project coordinators, worked with many of you guys for a number of years. Jesse has now moved over to join our team, working under Jay in programming. So you guys continue to work with Jesse on things like agreements and funding opportunities and applications when it comes to that time for TA and revenue sharing and other things. But what you also see there in the middle of the screen in the orange font is the opening we have for a senior LAP engineer. So Adam, any remarks you want to make about that?
I put the website there, jobs.virginia.gov, where you can see it there. It's most of you have worked with a project coordinator, kind of the assistance role it provides. But it's also this is a senior LAP engineer, so it's also a resource from an engineering and technical perspective to help in some cases find solutions.
Yeah, so we're not too proud to to put that out there and let you know that we have a vacancy. If you've enjoyed working with this team over the years, and you think, well, I'd like to work with them even closer on a daily basis. Well, here's an opportunity for you maybe to do that. Or if you have contacts that you know, perhaps folks in the consultant community or folks in, that you know that might be interested, we want to just make sure we put that out there. All right. So with that, I think this is the last slide. You never know with Adam. Whenever he gets a hold of a PowerPoint slide, you never know. Is there another one after this? Okay, so I'm going to leave it up here for a second. Just a couple real quick announcements, and I promise we won't go but another few moments. There we go. Is these presentations will be posted in the very near future. The video will be posted in the very near future. And thankfully, we got the video to play for you, so we don't need to post that separately. But these will be provided. We know this was a ton of information in a short amount of time. Go back and watch some of these as you need. If it just simply raised questions in your mind, use this as an occasion to reach out to any of us that you saw on the contacts list. We'll be glad to talk to you about it in more detail. So I'm going to pause a second to see if there's any questions from local government staff, planners, or not planners, consultants, or anybody else out there in the virtual world. Does anybody have any questions or follow-up comments real quick? All right, hearing none. Anybody else in the room here, anything you want to add? All right. Well, I just want to thank the folks in this room who put together presentations. Thanks again to the town of Benton. Thanks again to Dr. Smoot for giving us your time this morning and for recognizing the town of Blacksburg as the locale of the year. So with that, folks, we will log off and y'all have a good rest of your day. So thank you.